back and say, okay, Mike, but you know what, 10 minutes, I'm just so tired. Okay. Who in this room would like to be considered a professional in the field that they're in, by a show of hands? The rest of you, no? You just, like, no. I want people to look at me and say, I think that person's shady. Okay? You want to be a professional, right? Would you also expect a certain level of professionalism with anyone else you do business with? Prime example, if you were to go in and try to purchase a vehicle, a car, you would want that representative there at that dealership to be a professional, to be knowledgeable, to make sure that any of the questions you have, they're giving the information. If you ask, how is it on gas? And they say, I don't know, I put the gas in, and I put it in, and it goes. The light comes on when I need to fill it up again. It's great. Would that be a respectable answer or something that you would say, yeah, you know what, I'm in. Let's do this. No, right? You want them to be a professional. Now, I might take it to an extreme for you. But again, I've done a lot of extremes today. And the reason being is I want it to imprint in your mind when you catch yourself in these scenarios. So you go to this extreme to become self-aware and correct it. God forbid that you or one of your family members, a loved one, got diagnosed with something serious. Okay? And they needed to sit down with a specialist to take a look at what plan they were going to put in place to save your or someone that you love's life. Would you want that person to have the same level of knowledge in their field as you currently do in yours? So, think of it this way. If you were to scale yourself on a 1 out of 10, 10 being 100% on what we do and how we do it, and you're right now a 3 out of 10, then that specialist that's walking you through the plan on how to save your life would be a 3 out of 10. How would you feel about that? That's how serious I take it. And like I said, might be extreme. But again, if you want to be a professional in your field, you need to think that way. You need to think that, okay, whatever level I'm at today would be the same level of anyone I come in contact with at any given time for absolutely anything. If I'm talking to a doctor and I'm a 5, I'm getting 5 out of 10 advice. If I'm talking to a dentist and they're about to tell me about how they're going to do an entire root canal and rip out my teeth, and I'm a 3 out of 10, might want to get a second opinion. Make sense? So again, make sure you make that kind of direct thought process and say, okay, how can I become better here? And that's the question that's important. So, how do you get better? Master your presentations through repetition. Take the necessary time to research the industry and our competitors. Did you know that this information is readily available to you online? You want to learn about how Industrial Alliance works? Guess what you can do? Google Industrial Alliance. You want to learn how Sun Life works? Guess what you can do? Google Sun Life. Does this make sense? You can learn more about how RBC works and all these companies. So when you come in contact with somebody and they try to tell you that their Sun Life program pays them for day 1 disability better than yours, you can knowledgeably and confidently say, I don't think it does. Would you mind if we go through this together? Instead of, okay, cool. Because you've done what? Your homework, your research. Master the combo sale. Try to keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate the process. One of the craziest things I've seen happen is people that take a 3-minute presentation and turn it into 30 minutes because one customer one time asked one question about one thing, and they now feel that every other person they come in contact with needs that over-explained. Perfect example. You're in an HEA presentation, okay? You're starting off in section 1 about hospitalization. You get to intensive care, and someone asks you what that means, intensive care. And so now, every customer you come in contact with, you over-explain how intensive care works. Then, another customer later on says, well, what do you mean a minimum of 10 days and this 3 times recovery? So you explain it to that customer. So now, every customer you come in contact with, now you over-explain intensive care, and you over-explain how the recovery benefit works. Then, one customer one time says, what do you mean if I'm not in the hospital, I have to have a fracture or something? So then what do? You over-explain. So now every customer you come in contact with, you over-explain section A, B, C, D, E. Next thing you know, a 3-minute presentation turns into 30 minutes. Because what you've done is you felt, oh, just because one person had a question, everyone else must be confused. No, when you have a question or don't understand something, what do you typically do? Ask. So is it right to assume that everyone else has that same problem? Okay? So again, I'm just telling you, keep it simple, don't overcomplicate it. Okay? I know, I just overcomplicated keeping it simple, right? Oh, boy. Never prejudge what a person can or can't afford or what they do see value in or don't. How many people in this room have made a purchase that really didn't make sense financially, but you wanted it so bad you figured it out. Right? Everyone's ashamed. They're like, I don't want to be the first person. I'll give you an example. So this iWatch, it's been helpful to me, for sure. It has, when my phone's here and if something urgent's coming in and I'm up here, it allows me the opportunity to get a notification. But is it $1,700 urgent? Probably not. You know what I mean? Probably not. However, I felt I needed it, so I found a way to make sure that I had it, okay? And this isn't being braggadocious. There's more expensive watches out there. What I'm saying is, did I need this? No, I didn't need it. My life wouldn't come to an end if I didn't have it. But I found a way to make sure that I had $1,700 to go buy this stupid thing. And you know what ended up happening? I'll tell you, just sidetrack. So the phone it was synced to ended up frying out, and the only way you can unpair the watch is by unpairing it from the phone. So I ended up not even wearing this thing for 9 months because I went through several phones. So this thing, $1,700, sat on my counter, and I went back to all my old watches. Again, showing you how necessary was it. Not necessary. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that never prejudge what a person sees value in or what they can or can't afford. Okay? You might sit with somebody and financially speaking, you're afraid to call the question at a $300 premium because that's what they needed. But if they truly have been hit with difficulty or understand the value proposition from that, will they find a way to have the 300 there? Yes. That's the point I'm trying to make. And I want to make sure I caution you because some of you, out of fear of a number or prejudging a situation, might actually be hurting your client. Why would you be hurting your client? How could that happen? Because you show them less than what they need as a result of you being fearful of what they can or can't afford. Do you understand? So now, hypothetically, let's say you went in with the sole intention of showing them the accident program. They show that they have a need for sickness. You're afraid because that premium is high, so what don't you do? Discuss it today. But then 3 weeks from now, they get diagnosed with cancer. Who's that on, you or them? Because you didn't take the time to show it to them and let them make that decision. If they saw value, whether affordable or not, they might have been able to juggle some things and made it work. And then, God forbid, if that happened to them, that program was there to support them. Make sense? So again, we want to be careful. Now, that doesn't mean that I want you going out there and telling everyone, so here's what everything in our book costs. That's not what I'm trying to say, okay? I'm saying make sure you do a needs assessment, identify where the person's at, and figure out what the best course of action is by going step by step and letting them know, here's also what you're eligible for. You can make a yes or no decision on that. Try not to necessarily package everything together either. I know here it says master the combo sale. That's more in a direction of having a conversation with how accident and sickness can supplement each other and stuff like that. I don't necessarily want you to go in and combo it all out where it's like an HEA, an HES, a CI, and because it's tougher for a person to make a decision from zero. Let's say the option is 300 or nothing, or it's several decisions along the way. Does that make sense? Okay, again, affordability, don't be afraid to call the question, but it's a better process for people to make multiple decisions than it is for them to make one. You'll have less likelihood of follow up with a customer when you do it that way. As an example, if I sit down with Jennifer and I show her the HEA and I say, which do you think would be most suitable for you on a scale of here to here? And she selects one, I take the yes. I can now move on to the next area, allow her to make another decision on the next form of it, then move on to the, does that make sense? Because now, instead of her thinking that it's everything do or die, she still may end up with pieces and elements of what she sees value in today, and then we can circle back and have conversations about the rest later. In your needs analysis, you can mark off, went through this, declined that, also protecting you and making sure they're aware of what was discussed in that scenario. Is everybody with me? Yes. Okay. All right, always give your professional opinion on what you think they should do. Study your underwriting rules, very, very important. We talked about that. Attend as many training sessions and district meetings as possible. And ask for feedback on how to become better. Keep your MSK, your PDP materials, your notes with you in the car. Here's what I learned. When we did that cold prospecting workshop, well, your notes on cold prospecting don't do you any good if they're at home when you're trying to cold prospect and you're running into difficulty. But they would do you good if you've got out there, made some attempts, realized it's not working, went back into your car for that 5-minute pity party, pulled out your notes, read through your scripts again to realize you're saying nothing like what we've been talking about you saying. Make sense? The only way to do that is to keep them with you. Also make sense? Okay? So in summary, guys, your success comes down to the commitment that you have in whatever field it is that you've chosen to pursue. Your activities, your attitude, your product knowledge is what will choose and define your altitude in life. You control the outcome. You make choices that impact your future. Again, talking about being in that ocean, you're the captain to your ship to success. Sometimes the wind will blow, the current will try to change your course, but through persistence, perseverance, passion, and positivity, you can overcome it all. Happy sailing. Any questions so far? Okay, you guys need a little break to be able to digest? Okay? Because I'm going to go through just some very quick scripts and stuff with you, but take 5 if you need to run to the washroom, if you need to just let things sink in. And then I'm going to share with you guys some scripts to make sure that you've got some activity to put into motion as you move forward. Sound good? Everybody okay? Yeah? You don't want to kill me yet? We're fine? Okay, cool. All right. So take 5. Thanks. I love you too. The scripts will be up here for you guys to be able to take pictures of them and play around with them and stuff like that. But again, I look at it from a perspective of trying to see if we can get the most out of the activity we're engaged in with the least amount of resistance every step of the way. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll be sharing some things with you guys today that have usually led to higher amounts of success as opposed to just trying to figure it all out on your own and doing those kinds of things. So a lot of what you're going to see in this cold prospecting section is going to go back to our cold prospecting workshop. So for those of you that attended the workshop, I'll be looking to do another one here probably within the next month or a bit. Probably 4 to 6 weeks. I'll come back in and do another one for you. But I will share with you some of the basic scripts that we've got in various different elements of where we go. But if you remember when we talked in cold prospecting, we said that the biggest thing we need to do is be able to identify need to present value. Yes or yes? Yes. Right? So again, it all starts with that needs assessment and being able to make sure that we condition them properly on being able to find exactly what it is that they need and how what we do provides them with that solution. So the 4 questions that we ask in the needs assessment brochure, I know we kind of have gone through these things, but there's some things we want to emphasize or add in each one of those questions. Like question 1, if you were to become sick or injured and couldn't work, would you still receive a full paycheck? It's not written in there, but it is very important that we say full paycheck because we know that if they have a group plan or they have workers' comp, they might get a paycheck, but it's not a full paycheck, and a reduction in income is still going to put financial strain on an individual. Yes or yes? Yes or yes? Yes. There we go. Then when we talk to somebody about passing away, whether you believe in God, don't believe in God, I mean, I'm not here to judge anybody's beliefs, but what I do know is that softening a question of that nature is very important. Okay? There's nothing worse than saying, if you were to die tomorrow, would your family be able to maintain their standard of living to a total stranger? Okay? So adding the words God forbid and making sure that we have the right tonality when we ask this question is very important. If you were to die tomorrow, God forbid, would your family be able to maintain their standard of living? It's a lot softer. People understand why you're asking it, but how you do anything is how you do everything. Make sense? Okay? Question 3, if you were to develop cancer or some other critical condition, do you have an emergency cash fund of 6 to 12 months income to help cover all the non-medical expenses? These 3 areas are important to emphasize when you're asking this question. Otherwise, it just comes out as a statement. You're able to just transition. So be able to say, great, let me show you what we can do to help. If you're not confident, then the little segue that we created is I would love to quickly show you how our company can help you now in under 15 minutes or in just a few minutes, depending on what you're comfortable saying. Otherwise, I can come back on either this day or that day, but I need about an hour. Which would you prefer? Given the choice between doing something now in a shorter time frame or something later, which requires more time, people will typically choose now. Now, the outcome, though, is if they choose later, what have you got? An appointment for at least how long? An hour. Is that good, bad? Good, right? So here is B2B, quite simply, keeping it very, very simple, objective to get the needs assessment as quick as possible, and to say as little as possible, because what a lot of people do is they start to get into a pitch scenario. Walking in, hi, it's you, the person in charge, you are Ken, nice to meet you. And now Ken says, what are you doing here? And instead of showing him, I start trying to just download insurance on him all over him. That was a nice way of saying what I hope you got the visual of. Okay? Download insurance. So now I'm like, yeah, well, here's what I do. Blah, blah, blah. And he's a business person. He's going, whoa, get out of here. Make sense? Okay? The other thing, too, is if I try to argue with him. So if he says, oh, we've got group insurance. Now my reaction to that is, well, it's not group insurance. And now what am I trying to do? I'm arguing with him that what I do is different than what he's got, and that I need him to give me the time to explain that to him, when it would have been better from the very beginning to just try to show him. Does that make sense? Okay, guys? I learned this early on in my career. So any questions on B2B? Take a picture of the script if you don't have it. This is now okay? Yeah. 3, 2, 10, 9, 8. Oops. And again, I go into a lot more detail on this in the cold prospecting workshop, which I know there's a video on, but I will plan to come back and do another one live sometime between the next 4 and 6 weeks. Okay? Good? Good, great? Great. All right. Residential, okay? Remember what we were talking about psychologically when it comes to residential? You show up on someone's front door, immediately they're looking at it saying, oh my God, you're trying to sell me something. So trying to survey those people is a lot more beneficial than trying to sell them to lead into what it is you're there to do, okay? So, hi, my name is Mike Greco, represent a company called Combine. We're out today speaking with many of your friends and neighbors to improve our customer experience. Would you be willing to answer a few questions to help us out with that? We're a lot more inclined to do that. Great. At your work, do you receive full-time or part-time hours? Oh, I only work part-time. Fantastic. Transition right into needs assessment. Right there on the front door. After having an opportunity to go through this, thanks for answering my question, sorry. After having an opportunity to go through this, is there any area of concern you might have or something that might be important to you? Great. I'd love the opportunity to show you how our company can help you now in under 15 minutes. Otherwise, I could come back on such and such a day or such and such a day, speak with you and your spouse. But I need about an hour. Which would you prefer? Same process. Okay? Questions on this?